Hi, I'm Gandalf Clark,
I'm Ellen Clark.
and
And
we're the
we're the
Clarks.
Clarks.
Hello. We want to talk today about Good Omens. Um,
By Neil Gaiman.
Now, the first season of Good Omens was really good. It had some comedic stuff. It was. I mean, actually, it was mostly comedy. But it had some real high stakes. Basically world-ending stuff. Um,
Very suspenseful.
and it was about the friendship of an angel and a demon.
And the whole Antichrist thing.
Right. And that was really interesting, and I thought it was really good. So the second season, stakes weren't as high,
No, it's definitely less dramatic.
less dramatic. I mean, there was basically cutesy stuff about them trying to fix up a lesbian couple,
Hmm.
which that was fine. Um,
But the whole struggle in the heaven versus hell thing was definitely not as consequential.
right.
They made it seem like it was supposed to be the end of the world again, but they didn't really have all the people of the apocalypse and everything like that, like they did before,
No.
where it really felt so intense. Like they were just like, "Oh, we have to hide Michael in the bookshop," and it didn't have that whole like intense, like, "Oh shit, this is gonna happen." You know what I mean? Didn't have that feeling.
Yeah.
It was missing that.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much my thoughts about it too. But there's one other thing, and people are talking about this a lot. The whole thing where they decided to make it so that the angel and the demon were more than friends,
Romantic.
romantically involved.
Hmm.
Now, and I would say this if it was a straight couple too. Um, it seemed unnecessary.
It didn't really seem like there were any clues in the first season that there was any sort of romantic clue. That's the biggest problem that we have is that they never hinted at there being a possibility that these two were in love with each other. And even though they tried to show us, like in the second season, their relationship throughout time, they still never showed any sort of romantic inkling in that retelling of their
It was just kind
relationship.
of a suddenly, oh, they're suddenly in love with each
And
other.
the chemistry on camera, I didn't feel any
No, I
romance
didn't
in
feel any
between
chemistry
them.
between the two of them
Yeah. Usually there's some sort of buildup between the characters where you can feel that tension between the characters. It didn't feel like there was that buildup at all. And
either.
even
No.
the relationship between the female characters who were across the street, it also didn't feel like there was any sort of romantic.
Maybe the
Um,
writers of the show are just slipping. I mean,
They are when it comes, I think, to
to the
the
romance.
romance.
Yeah.
Now, in the first season, there wasn't any buildup of romance because the people were in the romantic situation at the end, and it was a life or death situation. So we don't know how these writers would write romance. Maybe they are not experienced in writing romance.
Maybe they're not.
Now, I know Neil Gaiman has written romance, but he doesn't always write romance. In the stories that I've listened to, like I've listened to some of his stories on audiobook, some of his short stories.
There
I
wasn't
do,
anything particularly romantic in American Gods.
no, there wasn't. But in the short stories that I've read, it all does happen pretty much all of a sudden, is what I'm thinking actually right now.
All the sex stuff is kind of all of a sudden it's quick and it's over.
Yeah. So this could be just a style that Neil Gaiman has.
I don't know. I didn't. It's not like I hated it. I'm not saying
Yeah.
that because I didn't see any issue with it, except that it just was kind of all of a sudden enforced.
Yeah. If someone's going to be having like a romantic situation, you need to have like that look, you need to have like that touch, you need to have like that gesture. Like yeah, there's definitely that friendship where they have that I would do anything for you. And I actually have that with a lot of friends of mine but there's something where you cross that line and maybe that hug lasts a little bit too long. Or, maybe you whisper something in their ear and you feel the cheek and then there's like electricity or something there. Or, maybe you're looking into that person's eyes a little bit too long, and you see that in the direction of the character. But it just felt like that was not there in this story. And I do love Neil Gaiman, but I do feel like this was lacking. I don't think, I mean, if this is the story that the writers wanted to tell this time, maybe they needed like a romantic consult on this one, is really
Yeah,
what
I
I
mean,
think.
honestly, it's. I would understand like if in the first story they hadn't decided to do this yet, and
Hmm.
maybe they didn't have anything in their history or anything like that that would really support it.
Hmm.
But the thing is, in this second season, there should have been something in the past that was
And they did show,
alluding to this.
yeah,
The fact that it just came out of nowhere.
they did show like their past situations, like, oh, we met up at this point, we met up at this point, we met at this point. They should have shown in those times where they met up at those other points that they did have those like lingering feelings, like I don't want to be without you, or, like um, looking into each other's eyes a little bit too long, things like that. When you feel that way for someone, it's very specific when you feel romantic towards someone. And I do know this, even from like a gay relationship. I have a lot of gay friends, and my one of my gay male friends is always telling me about his romantic relationships and how they go and things like that. So I know, yes, it is similar to cis romantic love. And you know it's it's no
Love is love. I
love
mean,
is love. That's what
it's
we
not.
always say,
There's
love
not.
is love.
That's not the problem. The problem was that, like we said, it came out of nowhere.
Yeah, it came
It
out of
just,
nowhere.
it just wasn't
And when you're
well done.
building a story, you need to have those elements of, touching and looking and feeling that it was not shown in the direction. So I think that, if people are having a problem with the romance, it's not just because of the type of romance it is, it's because of the way that it was shown in the story. So that's what we were talking about. And do you have any other thoughts about that?
Honestly, excuse me. um, it's it just I didn't like the second season as much as I liked the first season. Honestly,
Yeah.
I'm disappointed, and it's not the and like I said, it's nothing to do with the type of romance that it was.
Mm.
It has to do with how the romance was executed. It's not good, and it wouldn't have been good if it happened between a man and a woman either.
Yeah. Didn't matter who the characters were, it just wasn't executed well, unfortunately. I felt like the rest of the story was just a little bit lacking in
Yeah, it was definitely
excitement.
lackluster.
Um, the whole police person
Yeah,
story and the Michael story, like all of it just didn't have the intensity as of the first season.
yeah, and the thing is the other thing is that I think the characters that were in the first season were more interesting than the characters in the second
Mhm.
season.
Like the Antichrist character
Yeah,
and the
the
witch
kid and
character.
the everything. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
much more.
it was a lot more
To be
intense.
honest, it's okay to have a show that just has one season. That's what ours is going
Yeah.
to be right
But
now. I mean,
also, it's okay to have a season that's not as exciting. You know,
yeah,
it is okay to do that. So hopefully, if they have another season, they will have, more adventures for these characters. Maybe they can take, some notes from us about the romance and spice it up a bit for us, show that in those characters they actually have feelings and stuff like that for each other. um, show that more intensely. I could definitely see how they could show those feelings for each other. you know, through, thoughtful exercises, lingering hands, one person puts a hand down, the other person puts their hand down, they look into each other's eyes, and it's like, I love you, things like that. That's what people want to see. They want to see that romance bud, and all of a sudden they're dancing, and, however, how did that happen? They're dancing in the bookshop, the song that they heard, could have been playing, the song that Michael, the record, that they were talking about, that could have been playing, and then all of a sudden those two could have just started dancing. That would have been a little bit of a romantic thing. We could have seen a little bit of a foreshadowing there. That would have been cool. That's one thing that I would have done. That's one way you could workshop the scene there. But that's one thing we do as a group of writers. We pick at each other's stories and we tell each other what we think would make the stories better. And we hope that we do a good job with that, helping each other. And we appreciate you guys watching our videos and listening to our opinions, whether they're right or wrong. And I hope you get some enjoyment from it.